Okay, we're back. I want to thank and welcome our Director of HR, Deanna Evely, to the floor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Can I ask what page HR is, please, if I could? Just
yes, it's page 144.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. So I have my screen is shared there as well. So I'll start going through the draft budget for human resources and occupational health and safety. As you will see there, most of the line items have not changed or they have been decreased. The first three line items, wages and salaries, benefits, training and education, are the three items where there is an increase shown there. So the budget includes 10 staff, occupational health and safety, as I'd mentioned, payroll, our wages and salaries. These are projected increases. Excuse me. As well, in the wages and salaries, there's an amount that was reallocated from professional services that I will talk about a little bit more as we go through. That was an agreed upon move that has to do with our wellness coordinator. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Training and education, I am requesting a return to the pre-COVID budget. So there's a slight increase requested there. As we continue down, our travel and conferences, you'll see there's no change. That's staying status quo. Professional membership and dues and fees as well is no change. Actually, that's reduced. That would include things like our AMA fees, Canadian Payroll Association, those costs. Office supplies, office equipment, our advertising budget, telephone, they've all remained unchanged as well. Publications and subscriptions, you'll see, has been reduced for the department. We took a look at that to see what we're utilizing, what our fees are, and I did put in a decrease on that line item. The computer hardware, software, again, unchanged. Meeting expenses as well has been unchanged. Meeting expenses for HR, just for information, that would include things like our room bookings for negotiations, costs associated with that. Our professional services, you'll see that's the amount that has been reduced significantly, excuse me, and has been reallocated to wages and salaries, and that is mostly to cover the cost of the wellness coordinator that's been discussed. And then our contracts and agreements as well has been reduced. Okay. So that's the budget that I have.
Thank you, Deanna. It takes a moment, obviously, to flip videos back on. In the speakers queue, we have Councillor Darren Bruckschweiger.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And hi, Deanna. Thank you for your budget proposal in front of us. Pretty simple one. There's nothing new there. It's only a bit of wage increases, and that just comes with contracts. Question asked earlier, Deanna, by Councillor Edwards on the number of volunteer firefighters that we currently have. Under the workers' compensation, they all are covered by that. Now I understand the volunteers. So how are you able to keep track with that? Does the chief of each department have to tell you when people retire and new people come on? How do you keep track of that, if I could ask, please?
That's a great question, Councillor. So with regards to WCB claims for our volunteers, and the chief has the same numbers that I would suspect we have for the volunteers, so in around 800. Anything to do with WCB claims for our volunteers would come in through our employee benefits coordinator, through Tiffany Ratchford, as well as Karen Butterworth. So with regards to the volunteers, people leaving a volunteer station or new members coming, we wouldn't get notice of that, but we certainly have supports in place for the volunteers as well. So they do reach out to us. Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Deanna. This is all great information. When you have no questions, that means you've presented it perfectly.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have just about 8 minutes before 11. So I know that police services are on the docket for 11. I'm curious if our acting, I'm just going to go through the list here, our acting chief is present. Just 1 second. If not, perhaps what we can do, John, do you want to begin the technology conversation?
Sure, if that works for you.
Yep.
I did message Krista just to be on. She should be on in a second, but okay. Bear with me. I'm going to try to share my screen. Do you see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time in giving you an overview of the technology communications draft budget. And one of the things that I wanted to sort of bring to your attention up front, and it is a bit confusing to a lot of people, technology is responsible for public communications, but we're also responsible for 911. So the term technology communications is the technology department and the communications 911 department. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the budget separately, and I will stop and see if you have any questions on any of the specific line items. So here is our organizational chart. John McKinnon and my boss, Kathy McDonald. I'm sure you all know Kathy. Krista Dix is the 911 311 communications manager. We recently hired Christina Lamy as a permanent communications information officer. We have Blaze McLean as our database administrator. Phil Evely is our network administrator, and we have two awesome desktop support folks of Kurt and Nathan. And I'm not sure if you're aware of, and I would like to, at some point in the near future, maybe do a tour of the 911 311 center for council to get a sense of what it actually is. But we have, under 911, we have 4 supervisors and we have 12 communications operators. And on the 311 side, we have a team lead and 6 311 communications operators. So I'm going to start with the overall technology draft budget for 2021-22. I'm going to go through each, and I have slides for each of the individual line items. But if you look at the bottom line, you can see that the budget increase we're looking at is $46,280 for a total budget request of $1,415,094. So starting off with wages, for the technology side of our department, the wages are $585,390, which is an increase of $12,400. And what was done there is assumed a 1% collective agreement increase. Our benefits, effectively the same. We took the wages that we have on the technology side of things and estimated what it was expected the benefit increase would be. On training and education, the budget we're looking at is $12,000, an increase of $6,000. So basically going back to the pre-COVID budget. And I'm sure a lot of you can appreciate the technology training that we have to do. We weren't really able to do a lot of it during COVID. I mean, we did some remotely, but there wasn't a whole lot of training opportunities during COVID. And we were just up to our neck trying to keep things going with people working from home and whatnot. So we're going back, requesting going back to our pre-COVID budget. Travel and conferences, we're going back to the pre-COVID budget of $20,000, and that's an increase of $15,000. And what's included in that is the local travel for the technicians throughout the CBRM. And so that would be the travel that Nathan and Kurt would make throughout the municipality. We have dozens of sites where they have to go effectively daily to provide support, and then travel for the rest of the staff on meetings and conferences. Professional membership and dues, we're keeping that at $1,000. Office supplies, $2,000, no increase. Office equipment, $3,000, no increase. Advertising, $8,000 with no increase. And the courier costs of $300 with no increase. The phone fax, we don't have to increase. We have a contract with Bell primarily, and that keeps things stable. So what the $61,200 includes are the landlines and mobile phones for the staff of the department, all of our wide area networking costs in the various buildings that we have. And we have upwards of 21 sites. I think we have even more than that now. And the internet connectivity throughout the organization. So we pay for all of that out of that budget. Our publications and subscriptions we're staying at $1,000, and that includes subscriptions to a number of tech resources that we have and our techs use. Computer hardware at $131,950. That is an increase of $1,950. And what we did is we expect there to be increases in hardware costs. And we're actually finding that we increased about 1.5%, but we're finding that the costs of hardware and the availability of hardware, in particular to do with COVID, and more people are buying computers and are buying other types of equipment, and the costs are going up. And what that does is it provides replacement for the 50+ servers that we currently maintain here at City Hall and over at the police building. And all of the various switching equipment that we have well over 80 switches within our network, UPSs that we have to maintain in the event of a power outage to ensure that the computer servers that we have will shut down properly. All of our firewalls that we have throughout the CBRM, and also includes the audiovisual equipment that we have through the various boardrooms and whatnot. Diagnostics equipment, that's not cheap. So in order to be able to determine if there are any network issues, just a moment here. Seems like I have a call. There, pull the plug. That diagnostic equipment can be quite expensive, and all the desktop computers and mobile devices for the technical staff. Our computer software, again, we've increased it by cost of living, and that's built into most of our contracts that we have. So it's $208,917. And what that includes is all of the Microsoft Enterprise licensing for the CBRM, which includes all of our SQL Server databases. And I believe we have probably about 15 or 20 different databases that we maintain, plus the 800 Office 365 licenses that we have, so people can access their email, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those kinds of things. And the 800 plus Microsoft CALs. CALs are client access licenses that allow people to be able to print, to be able to share files, to be able to access that kind of stuff, and also SharePoint. As well, within that budget, we include all of our firewall software and all of our antivirus software, as well as other administrative and 301 software. Meeting expenses, we kept at $500 with no increase. Our contracts and agreements, we kept at $40,000. And within that line item, it includes all of our offsite backup and disaster recovery, as well as the photocopier leases. 8120, the SAP leases, we pay for all of the SAP licensing for all of our staff throughout the CBRM. So it's our department that actually pays for it. We've increased it, and there is a cost of living clause within the contract that we have, and the contract is with SAP through the province of Nova Scotia. And we, as I said, we provide upwards of 120 user access through all the departments within the CBRM. And licenses and permits, there's one line item that goes through that particular account, and that would be the hosting, technical support, change management, and disaster recovery for SAP. So our SAP is hosted in the cloud through the province of Nova Scotia, and they are providing all of that support, all of the hosting, all of the change management, all of the technical support, disaster recovery, security management, patching, that kind of stuff within that particular line item. And I think that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that slide. And does anybody have any questions?
None in the queue, John.
No questions?
I do, John, sorry.
Oh, okay.
John, I'm just curious, going through all the different departments, of course, one of the line items that we're seeing is telephone / fax. And some departments are higher than others, of course, with the number of people working in the department. From a procurement standpoint, can I assume that we negotiate with a supplier for all departments, including police, fire, the whole gamut of CBRM? I'm just curious.
Yes, we do. And it is a bit misleading, that heading, because it does include networking. So with respect to our phones, we work with the province of Nova Scotia, and we both phones, landline and cell phones, and we work with the province of Nova Scotia in the RFPs that they develop to receive the greatest benefit possible. So we do benefit from the economies that the province can bring to the floor. So the number of cell phones, so we get a tremendously reduced rate from all of those. With respect to the networking and our communications costs, we go out to tender every 3 years for, and with what we've been finding, and actually if you look at that number that you see of 61,200, if you went back probably 7 or 8 years ago, that number would be closer to 100. We've significantly reduced across the board that particular line item over the years. And that seems to be one of the few technology line items that we tend to be able to reduce. And we're finding that the vendors are much more creative and much more, they're much more of a sharp pencil when we go out to tender. So we RFP everything, and we take advantage of the best prices that are available.
So when the RFP goes out, is it for a selected number of different services provided by the supplier community? And of course, how long is our existing contract? Is our mobility contract the same length of time of terms as our IT, for example?
No, they're not. The mobile, they're all separate. So we would have a separate contract for our landlines. We would have a separate contract for our mobility, and then we would have another contract for our networking communications. So they all end at different times,
Right.
and we recognize them. We will put out an RFP in advance of that.
So just a last final point, knowing that if we put out a bundle of services to a particular company or a list of companies that can provide for all services, because of our volume, could we not, if you bundle it, get a better price on a bundle package versus put them out separately? Just curious.
I mean, there is a thought about that perhaps, but the reality is that we're able to take advantage of the provincial numbers. So when you look at mobile phones, we may have a couple of hundred mobile phones within the CBRM. They literally have thousands. So when we're going out to tender for mobile phones, the companies on the other end are looking at the potential and are really we've done it in the past, and we've experienced some negative consequences with doing it alone. And we found that the prices were a little higher, and the guaranteed service for those that were back in the early days of the CBRM was not the best. So we find that tying in with as much as we can with some of the provincial RFPs that are going out is much more financially beneficial to the CBRM.
I take it we pick it back after prices that is presently being offered to the province.
Correct. In actual fact, with respect to the mobile contract, we were actually one of the respondents. The CBRM, the province of Nova Scotia, Capital Health. So we were actually, I was involved in developing the RFP and on the adjudication committee. So we do have that exposure to the province to be able to make sure that our needs are met in what we need to be able to do. And the contract that we currently have, particularly on the mobility side, is phenomenal. I mean, it's very challenging to be able to find such a positive contract out there.
I'll give you a comparison. You tell me someday what you're paying, I'll tell you what we pay. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Councillor. Next in the queue is Councillor Darren Brookschweiger.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, John, for your presentation and your hopes for the budget. I guess for me, like some of that stuff that you talk about on the computer technology stuff, it flies right over my head. I'd have to have the young guy sit next to me to know what some of this is about. I'll be honest with you. He has to come up to fix my remote control at the odd time, so that'll just go to show you. But I am one of the old boys club, I guess, and although there's a couple of guys got elected older than me this time, but anyway, John, I appreciate this. So maybe you wouldn't mind giving us an update on the 311. I know Krista sent something out recently, and I think I was just really looking for the latest timeline on this one. It's been one that, as you know, it's almost 3 years since this was approved at council, by all the council, that the 311 moved forward. And I know it's been a huge effort to get this all completed.
Yeah.
There was lots of different parts, from staffing to phone number and getting all your technology in place that I really don't understand fully. But I'm just wondering when our residents and we'll see this final product kick into place.
If I can, Darren, I actually have a second part of my presentation. This was just the technology side.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be talking about the
okay, great.
911 311 center next, and I can kind of give you an update of where we are.
Great.
And I do have, I think, I can't really tell, but is Krista on the? Yep, she's there. So I'll bring her in as well.
Great.
So,
Okay.
This part was strictly technology. I'll be
moving
on to the comm side. Okay.
My bad. Thank you.
No, that's okay. Any other questions on the technology?
No, that's great. Thank you. Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. So we can jump into the second part of your presentation then, John.
Okay, thank you. I will. Okay, this is the overall 911 311 comm center draft budget. If you go to the bottom totals, you'll see that the budget request for 2021 and 22 is $2,335,246, which is a budget increase of $488,000 and $50. So like with technology, I'll go through each of the line items. So starting with wages, the wage increase would be $1,601,317, which is an increase of $385,218. But within that increase, what is happening is, and I believe both Wayne and Adam talked about this, is there are 4 positions transitioning from other departments into the 311 center to be able to do support. So EPW wage budget was reduced by $178,206, and finance was reduced by $45,467,000. So in essence, the overall effect to the budget in the CBRM is $161,544. And what that assumes is a cost of living increase, as well as estimates for overtime, stat pay for the 7x24, 365 coverage of the 911, 311 center. The benefits as well, they've increased fairly significantly, but they also include the associated 4 positions that are transitioning from the engineering and public works and finance. So with respect to that, $5,294 is being moved from engineering and public works and finance to the 911 311 center comm center budget for a net overall increase of $14,277. Our training budget, we're looking for an increase from $3,750 to $10,000. Communications was moved over to technology. It had always actually resided in technology from 1995. It was moved to the police department. When it moved back, what was allocated was $3,750. It was determined through this year that that wasn't sufficient. It is not sufficient for 911 requirements. They are required to take a multitude of courses, including, and I have here, OH&S, CPIC, GENS, tactical dispatch, active shooter incident management, so many courses, it's unbelievable. So we thought it was prudent to increase that budget to $10,000. Our travel and conferences, it was upwards of $2,500. We believe that we can reduce it back to pre-COVID of $625. Professional management and dues, we've increased to $450, and that's to provide professional membership to the site manager. Office supplies, we're increasing to $800 to $3,800, and that's directly related to COVID supplies. And I do believe it's important to recognize that being a 7x24, 365 operation, and again, I would like to take you to see the operation. The staff are sharing workstations. So the amount of supplies that we need in order to be able to provide a safe environment for them, and if you can appreciate back, and we don't think that the COVID issues are going to go away anytime soon. So there's somebody sitting at a workstation, and then after the 12-hour shift, somebody else is sitting in that workstation. So it requires a lot of COVID supplies in order to ensure they're working in a safe environment. Office equipment of $10,000. Telephone fax of $92,200, which is no increase. And you can appreciate they have lots of communications lines coming inside of the network, and it also will include the 911 console lines, which are terribly expensive. Computer hardware of $5,000 with no increase. Computer software of $166,260, which is a slight increase. Again, cost of living. A lot of the contracts we have a built-in cost of living. So whatever CPI is, that will be increased that much. So we're looking at $3,200, $600 increase. Meeting expenses we're keeping at $500. The electrical charge is $9,650 with no increase. Building facility rental is 64,900, and that is an increase of $20,000 from the previous budget. And what will be happening is the folks at 311 will be taking much of the space across the hall that we have a contract with for fire and EMO. So EMO and fire will be moving to the new fire station, and we will be using that spot, which is directly across the hall from 911, to be able to provide the location for the 311 call takers, and that will result in a reduction in the fire budget. So it should net itself out. So there should be no net increase in cost. The comms lines of $7,500. There's no increase in that, and that includes primarily the VHF radio tower maintenance and the management for the volunteer paging. So we are responsible for that, and if there are any issues with the paging, we deal with it through our budget here. Professional services, we're increasing that $5,000, and this is just based on our current trajectory this year. Talked about the situation with running a 7x24 365 operation, and the fact that they are sharing workstations. The additional cleaning costs were identified to be about $5,000 a year. So we want to include that in our budget. We don't see any significant changes to the COVID cleaning requirements this year. So if things do change, we just won't have to use that money. Contracts and agreements of $17,000, that's a $0 increase, and that would be, we have to rent a number of radio towers to be able to provide the VHF paging for the volunteers, and also within that particular group are the photocopier costs. And then we have the licensing and permits. We do pay a CRTC licensing fee for the VHF radio frequencies, and it comes out of that budget. One thing that a lot of, and I actually didn't really know this until we took over, is that the 911 Center does receive revenue from the province of Nova Scotia. In 2019 and 20, the revenue was $235,673. Last year, we saw an increase, and it is, and I believe Jennifer talked about it, it's our dispatching for EHS and other provincial related calls. The revenue increased to $266,717. And we are anticipating, but we aren't sure yet, we're still trying to work on the numbers. We do expect, based on the call volume, and I'm sure Krista can attest, the call volume within the center has probably increased 20 to 30% based on COVID. So we are expecting another increase in the revenue derived from the call center for 2021 and 22. And I'll go back to the budget here and ask if there are any questions. And Darren, would it be prudent that I respond to your question now, or?
Good for me, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. After we did, and Krista, maybe I'll get you to add if I miss anything, which I'm sure I will. After we did our meeting, council orientation, we talked about having it ready in early January. After that meeting, we did have a request from the national reps for the unions, where we're moving, people are moving from engineering public works to have a meeting. So we did think that it was prudent to meet with them to talk about, because they wanted to know more about 311. With schedules, Christmas and holidays, I believe the meeting happened on January 8th or maybe January 7th. The meeting went very well, very respectful. They got a sense of what it was. And we didn't want to put out the jobs until we actually met with them and talked to them. So we didn't want to put the jobs out public. So they are now out. Krista has done a number of interviews. They're internal currently, and there are a number of candidates, as I understand. I wasn't involved in the interview process, but there were a number of candidates that appear to be successful. And so if I believe there are a couple of more interviews going on this week. And once that is done, if we don't have our full complement, we will be going out to the public very soon. And pretty much all of the technology requirements that are required are completed. So, you know, all of the phone system, which we actually used for the election, has been tested and is working. The CRM system, I think they were working on the finishing touches of that last week. And so we're pretty much, as soon as we can get the jobs out and get them filled, we're pretty much ready to go. Krista, do you have anything you can add to that?
Sure. Thanks, John. For external postings, we're looking at the end of the week or the first of next week. And really, we anticipate to be up before next fiscal. So assuming everything goes very, very well in the hiring process, we anticipate starting to take live calls. A lot of the training that we're going to be doing can be done on the job as we're fielding calls and that type of thing. So Darren, I know you're looking for a timeline, so that's the target right now.
So that's April 1st, you're thinking, is that?
That I think so. I'm pretty confident that we can, you know, we're going to have see an influx in the external as well as, I mean, we've had a few in the internal, so pretty confident April 1st we'll be moving.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you so kindly, Krista and John. Also to Darren Brookschreiber for your questions. There is a speakers list starting with Councillor Gordon MacDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure if this question should be for you, John. Maybe I should have asked the CFO, Jennifer Campbell. I noticed through some of these presentations, the electrical bills are really high. And the costs are pretty amazing when you look at the totality of them. I'm just wondering, like, with Nova Scotia Power being an exempt taxpayer in the municipality, what do we get back from that business or you know, corporation to offset what we're paying them as a whole? Thanks.
Okay, that would probably be better for Jennifer to answer, but I do recall in one of her slides, and she could probably provide it to you. They do pay a certain percentage of tax based on the infrastructure that they have within the municipality. And so there is actually I don't know the actual amount. Jennifer, do you have that at your fingertips? But they do pay a lot of the taxes that otherwise would be, or if you look at the assets that they have within the municipality, a lot of their assets goes into equalization in the equalization formula. But there is a certain percentage of the assets that they have within our municipality that will go towards taxes. I don't have the number here, but I know that we have it somewhere. And I think Jennifer could probably get that to you soon.
Yeah, if I could add to that, the Nova Scotia Power grant in lieu that we have budgeted for 2021-22 is $3,050,901. And that's based on, as John mentioned, the percentage of Nova Scotia Power assets that are within CBRM's boundaries. And we receive the residential rate of tax, or the resource rate of tax on that.
Thank you very much. And with that 3.5 million, are we in a plus from that, or are we in a negative for the costs that we are sending them as in electrical bills?
I haven't done that calculation, but I can certainly do that and provide that to council.
Thanks again.
Thank you kindly. Up next, we have Councillor Steve Gillespie.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall. To John, we're looking at some fairly large increases over the last number of years with regards to technology department, and especially when we include the 911 department in there. Now we're also including 311 aspect to that. John, would you be able to break out the total cost that this new service 311 is going to be as just itself? I know that it is included as part of your overall budget pitch, but we're adding things to our budgets each year. This seems to just be a sizable portion of that. And I'd also like to get your opinion with regards to whether this is something that we'll see as a cost savings overall, due to the fact that, you know, right now, either people call their counselor, or they pick up the phone and they call somebody else at whatever department. You know, what is the roundabout figure for us when it comes to the cost of what 311 will be for the residents of the CBRM versus if there was a cost savings there before it was put in? If you can understand what I just said.
I think I did, and I'm going to go to the next slide, and maybe I didn't do a good job explaining it, but with respect to the wages, what we're doing right now, Engineering and Public Works has positions where they provide after-hours support. So they have 3 people that are currently employed doing that work. So, and also there was a person in finance that was doing the same. So what we're doing is we're moving those positions. So the net, so if you look at, if you can see that wages and salaries, the increase to our budget is $385,218. However, it's offset because of the Engineering Public Works Department takes out 3 positions from their department, which equates to $178,206.
And these are the individuals that are on the phones.
They would be moved over. Those positions are moved over to the 311 department.
Okay.
Now I can give you a very detailed spreadsheet, which would include all of that, the total costs for 311, the total net costs for 311, all of that I can do for you. So, but I do want to make sure that the rest of the council does understand that those 4 positions that there are a total of 7 positions, but the 4 positions that are they're moving from one, they're coming out of one budget and going into the 911 311 comm center budget. Which provides a net overall, which provides a net overall increase of 161,544 versus the 385,218.
Okay. Yeah, and John, if you could supply that to me, the reason I ask is because, you know, although 311 is a good idea, and you know, Councillor Bruckschweiger has been promoting it from day one. For me, I think what 311 is going to do for areas such as the Old County and Cape Breton, which includes my district, is just confuse people. So I'd like to have an answer when people ask me, well, how much is this costing? And because the municipality doesn't supply those types of infrastructure services to the rural areas, you know, people are going to ask, you know, why are we paying for it, basically. So if I have that information, I can answer those questions.
Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. Next on the speakers list, Councillor Perouche.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is for you, John. Just a question. These people that you said that you're pulling out of dispatch that are moving into the 311, are they getting the same wage? Is it a drop in wage? Do they get benefits if they didn't have benefits, or is it just a straight move for these?
Yeah, see, that was the reason for the conversation with the national reps, it's going from one QP union to another QP union. So it's a bit of apples and oranges, and the positions at Engineering and Public Works were a bit different than what I believe overall, the salaries would be pretty consistent. I don't know if Krista, you can respond to that, and or yeah.
Yeah, no, I can. So the funding is a little bit different. The salaries coming to 311 are a little less.
Okay,
But,
so-
yeah.
Okay. So
But
with
they do
that-
receive they do receive staff pay, is that correct?
Yes, they do receive staff pay and all the things, the 24-hour service.
The hours are slightly less, that kind of.
Is 311 saving us money? Almost with what Councillor Gillespie was saying, is it saving us money? To this. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was your question, sorry.
No.
So I think we, at the end of, say, a full year, we'll be able to analyze whether or not it's saved physical dollars. What I can say is that I'm sorry, I have to back up. I just got a ding there. What I can say is that it's providing a different service. So it's not simply taking a phone call and sending it to a department. It's taking a phone call and triaging the call according to how that department wants to have the call triage. So for example, I'll use recreation, for example. If they have a person who's answering the phone and the phone calls are coming in, when is the parade, when is the parade, when is the parade? That's something that 311 can answer while creating capacity inside the department. So I think some of your cost savings that you're looking at are going to be a bit hidden, because every time 311 helps and supports and does that capacity building, we have a cost savings. It's just, it looks different. So just to back up to, I misspoke. There is no staff pay on this particular, classification, but they're able to do, even though it's a 365, 24/7, it's 8-hour shifts. There are other benefits. There's benefits to the employee for learning and growth. And I mean, it's really quite a robust program. I really look forward to showing you the advantages of having it in place. It's not simply call answering. Is that helpful?
Yep, that's perfect. And I'd love, John, when this gets off the ground, if we could, as a council, go have a tour, just so that, like Councillor Gillespie said, we can answer these questions so that we can have clarity for our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can add too, I believe Krista will be reaching out to council to do a workshop in the very near future on 311.
Thank you, Councillor Perouche. Next, we have Councillor Darren Brookschweiger.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess I'm a little bit confused with Councillor Gillespie's comments today, but I'm sure he was there when we approved this originally, and I just don't recall those questions, but there was really a full explanation of the 311 and the benefits of the fact that we have one full page of phone numbers now that people have to go to try to contact people. We have sometimes frustrated constituents because they can't get a caller on the other line. And even as counselors, we could be on the beach or selling advertising or whatever when a constituent is trying to reach us. They're actually going to get a voice on the other end here, and that's what people want. Even some of the calls I get on the weekends, people say, Darren, I'm sorry for having to call you on a Saturday, but I don't know where to call to get a hold of this person. So with the one number, it's going to make things a whole lot simpler for our constituents. And that was the big idea that surrounded it at the time. And we can always vote to stop 311, but every progressive community in the country has 311, and some of the reasons were mentioned on why we're going there. We want easy access for our constituents, and I feel they're deserving of that. Budget, it was always known that we were going to need more operators, but it was always felt that we had them within the system. we've already got people answering in all different directions. And as pointed out, we've managed to pick up 3. So, please, I wish, John, you would explain a little more about the advantages of this, and Chris as well, just to take the time, if the mayor will allow that, because I think it's important to the conversation that we know what we're talking about when it comes, I guess, final time, if you want to cut from the budget. If there's a majority that feel the same way, we can do that in a couple of months, but I certainly won't be supporting that. Thank you.
Just for clarity and trying to keep moving forward with today's proceedings, which are budget related, these are the conversations we're going to have in depth when we're actually deciding on budget lines. If there is more information needed, what I can suggest is we can have it brought back to council. We have a few council meetings before we go into our budget. But I agree, Councillor Brookschweiger, this has been to council a number of times, but perhaps for the new council members, what we can offer is a bit of an information session or a workshop on what 311 is. And then when it comes to budget time, have these deeper discussions, whether or not we keep it in the budget or not. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good with
Yeah,
us
that'd be
too.
great.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Next on the speakers list, we have Councillor Erlene McMullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I realize we're moving on with this, but in a budget stance, I just want to let council know, for colleagues that aren't familiar with it, there's a lot of financial already invested in 311. This is something that wasn't just created and we're going to start paying for it. It was a previous decision by council. And I'm sure, as all council realizes, we are constantly bombarded with, what do I get for my taxes? What services do I get as a resident? This is a massive and major service that I'm a little confused on how it can cause confusion when the whole purpose is dial 311 and there's an answer. But I just want to be very wary going in. Like, yes, this is a budget line and you can look at it, but there's a lot of money previously invested, and I'd hate to see that go to the wayside for no reason at all. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I also would like to point out to council that may not be familiar, when this was created, not only was it passed by council, but each council member, even personally face-to-face, met with Krista as this program was developed to see what the expectations were. So it's definitely not something that was done fly by night that we weren't part of. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And yes, by all means, it can be scratched, but don't for 1 second lose the amount that was already invested. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lorne Green is next.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the work that's gone into 311. Obviously, I have 13 years in a call center, so I can appreciate the work that the call center operators do. Let me tell you firsthand. My only question is, and it's not a budget question as much as it is the amount of lines that Darren was talking about earlier, that people have to look through to get services. Is it going to eliminate those phone lines, John?
It won't. It will eliminate some of them. Yes, it will. Others will be hidden behind a. They won't be available in the blue pages that were in the phone book. They won't be available on our website any longer. So we will be, once this is live, we will be promoting 311 and 311 only. So if somebody wants to talk to somebody from recreation, perhaps there may be a different phone number there, but we will be promoting 311 as the number to ensure that you're going to get a live body every single time you call. And that's the key thing. You're not going to get a voice message. You're not going to get an answer machine. You're not going to get any of that. You're always going to get a live person. The technology that we have, it's not like all the phone calls are recorded. You worked in a call center, so you get a sense of that. It has technology that will allow us to be able to text. So people will be able to text to the operator and to be able to ask a question. The younger folk don't want to call. So you will be able to, at certain times of the day, it will come up and it will say, do you want to text if you have a question? All of that stuff gets reported, and we'll be able to provide you with the analytics that you're going to need to be able to make your decisions in the long term as to what is the reality, what is going on out there. But like, take, for example, the snowstorm. 311 that we had last week, and City Hall was canceled. The transit was shut down. So the way it would work in a 311 center is if people wanted to find out anything, they didn't have to go to Facebook, they don't have to go to Twitter. We will have real time a message that we can automate right out of the gate that will say, welcome to the Cape Breton Regional Municipalities 311 Center. All municipal offices are closed for the day due to the storm, as well as transit. And so it will be, okay, thank you very much. So it'll be very beneficial in getting the information out to the public. Now, if they wanted to call and find out about something else, press 1 for solid waste or whatever it is, and then they will get a live person. So that is really the huge benefit in 311. And because people don't know, and I remember at one presentation showing the list of, as Councillor Brookschweiger stated, over 100 phone numbers that are in the yellow pages. They will have, and what we have is we'll say Public Works North, Public Works East, Public Works Central, and they would have a number associated with it. People don't know what division they live in, so they're just calling numbers willy-nilly. If they don't get a person, if they get an answer machine, they will call another number. What that does is it takes all of that away and funnels it through one interface. So I know that was a long
Yeah, it was.
But I did think that it was important for councillors to get a sense of what it actually is at the end of the day.
I guess I'll leave my other questions for a future date, but I do have some questions in regards to the actual triaging of the inquiries that come in and how that's going to unroll. So I'll leave those questions for another day because they're obviously not budget, and I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And yeah, we will definitely have some follow-up and more education on this service. I think just to note really quickly, though it might not have a dollar amount per se attached to it, what I'm curious to see going forward is how the data that is collected from a service like this can help us help impact our budget going forward. If we know that residents are faced with, issue A, B, and C the most, that's where we can focus more of our efforts, our programming, our services. So it might not have like a dollar amount attached to it, but that data is going to be invaluable. Next, I was trying to follow the speakers list, and my apologies. Glenn Perush.
Yep. Sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, just for the record, I'm not against 311 at all. The question that I asked about the wages and that with people moving departments, I was just curious if they were making more money, less money, as opposed to the actual 311 itself. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Next, Councillor Steve Gillespie.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall. Just to, I guess, clarify my position on 311, as it was pointed out by a couple of councillors. I was in the room when this was explained. I voted for it because I thought it was a good thing for CBRM, putting on my CBRM hat, as it were. But over the last 4 years, the residents of my district have been using a hotline from Department of Transportation. And we have been slowly, over time, showing them that that is the phone number to call when it comes to road maintenance and any work that has to be done. I realized that there's going to be a working relationship between 311 and this DOT hotline. But the vast majority of calls that come from the County of Cape Breton residents are for road maintenance. And there will be some confusion there. But at the same time, I think it's something that we can follow up on and let people know. Don't like the remark made by Councillor Brookschweiger with regards to whether or not I do my job properly. Not the place for that, Darren, not at all.
That is noted, and I do hope that we continue with an environment of respect here. Sorry that I didn't catch that earlier, Councillor Gillespie.
Madam Mayor, for clarity, I don't remember speaking anything about anybody doing their job. I just mentioned that if we were away from our phone line and a constituent tried to reach us, regardless of, because they are considered part-time jobs, a constituent could actually call a number and reach somebody. I never took any shots at Councillor Gillespie whatsoever.
Yes, you did. Go back and listen to it.
Okay, we can have a conversation. I know that the word advertising was thrown around there too, so hopefully we can just nix all of that, move forward professionally. Thank you, Councillor Bruckschwager. Next, Councillor Steve Parsons, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, and please correct me if I'm out of point or out of order here, but this is a pre-budget conversation that we're having, and I appreciate everybody's opinion in terms of operational issues and concerns, but I think that would be for a different time in a meeting specifically slated for 911 and 311, because like Councillor Gillespie, I have some concerns from a rural area, but saying that, of course, I think those conversations should be held in a meeting specifically for that and not take up pre-budget conversations. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Couldn't agree more. Trying my hardest to keep it budget specific.
Mayor, Mayor, I'm not
Councillor-
sure the speakers list that you have. Yeah, I had a comment in there for a point of order a few minutes ago, I guess. Yesterday, I had asked a question and was told that it wasn't directly related to a budget line item and that we should move on and have the discussion at a later time. We're listening to a lot of discussion. I don't think, in my opinion, that is related to definite budget lines. We have our acting chief of police was now 45 minutes behind in a presentation. We're coming on to lunch hour. I'm concerned that he's not going to have enough time to present. So with all due respect, I think a lot of the conversation, what's happening is not related to budget line items. And I think it's important conversation, but we should be having that at a different time, as just been suggested there. And I would ask that if there is other questions, stick to definitely to the budget line items with the appreciation of time with their acting chief, possibly going to lunch in another 15 minutes. So just wanted to get that out there.
So
Roger's available for one if need be. It's not.
I was just made aware that our acting chief is available for 1 p.m. so that will be fine. I had this. Made these comments yesterday, and we'll do it again today. I can do only so much as chair. It is up to the individuals as well to take this role responsibly and realize we're here to talk about budget. I've made the suggestion that we will have an update on 311 and any issues pertaining to that going forward. Just so you know, the positions for 311 have already been posted. So that is also important to be reminded of it at this point. Going forward, if the questions are not pertaining to budget, you will be asked to stop speaking.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And my concern is just, I didn't know that the acting chief would be available at 1. So my concern was, we're running behind. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for the time.
So the acting chief is going to be speaking to us at 1 o'clock. This afternoon, I do have an appointment. So the deputy mayor will be assuming the role of chair. I hope council will respect her as they've respected me and keep the conversation strictly to budget. We had these conversations in our session with Tom Urbaniak about staying focused and on task. We did a great job yesterday, and I hope that is reflected again today. Deputy CAO, do you have anything you want to add further to your conversation? Or Krista, would you like to add anything? We have about 10 minutes before lunchtime, reconvening at 1 p.m. with the acting chief.
No, not really, except to say that we will reach out to council in the very near future, probably within the next day or so, to request a workshop with council on 311 specifically. And hopefully we can spend as much time, we'll take a morning or an afternoon to talk about what it is and how it'll all work. And I believe as well, Krista is going to meet with those counselors that are new that she hasn't met with yet. So we will endeavor to do that sooner than later.
That's great. Look forward to the session. And we can have sessions for any of the departments, projects, services outside of regular council meetings. That's the beauty of our job. Any further questions regarding IT 311 services? Okay, we will break for lunch, reconvening. If we could join in about 10 to 1 to make sure we have all the technical kind of bits and pieces out of the way, that would be wonderful. Again, the deputy mayor will be assuming the role of chair around 2 o'clock-ish, and really hopeful that the conversation stays focused on budget lines. Thank you, colleagues.